it's safe to say it is over for Lord Durk. Feel how you want, it is what it is. Made himself a multi-millionaire, came up out of Chicago just to slide for Vaughn. And y'all know who got him to crash out? Tekashi. He slid for Vaughn, and the only way he should have been sliding for Vaughn was taking care of his kids. Listen to these charges, and then y'all tell me if y'all think Lord Durk's coming home.
I'm not a lawyer, but the feds just dropped their third superseding indictment against Chicago rapper Lil Durk, and I just read all 31 pages, so let me tell you the biggest differences between indictment number 2 and indictment number 3. So as a reminder, this case started off as a murder for hire case. Prosecutors were alleging that Durk put out a hit on rapper Quando Rondo in order to avenge the death of Durk's best friend, King Von. Von was killed in Atlanta by someone who was with Quando Rondo. But instead of killing Quando Rondo, the shooters mistakenly killed his cousin, whose initials are SR, instead. And so Durk and the alleged hitmen, Kevon Grant, DeAndre Wilson, Keith Jones, David Lindsay, and Asa Houston, were all charged. So that's the background, and that gets us to this new indictment where a lot has changed. Starting with the fact that instead of 6 defendants, there are now only 4 listed. Durk Banks, still listed, DeAndre Wilson, still listed, David Lindsay, still listed, and Asa Houston, still listed. Defendants Kevon Grant and Keith Jones are still mentioned throughout the indictment, but now they are not listed as defendants.
So we know what that is.
As someone who has attended almost every hearing for this case, they also have not been at the hearings. Do with that information what you will. Now let's talk about the charges, because those have changed too. This new indictment adds 2 new charges and removes 1. The 2 new charges include murder in aid of racketeering. And then count 2 is now listed as conspiracy to commit stalking. And then the one that's been removed is the standalone machine gun charge. Now it's worth noting there is still a firearms charge, but the standalone machine gun one is removed. So it seems like...
See, this is where the feds got him at, and they get you at. They couldn't do the murder for hire because it was weak. So now they got him murder in aid of racketeering. Murder in aid of racketeering, bro. It's going to be hard to beat that one. Damn, that's how they got John Gotti and the mob, you know, who the black people follow after. Because y'all do know black people modeled their whole street ideologies after the La Costa Nostra, the, you know what I'm saying, the Gambino family, the Lucchese family, the, you know, the 5, you know, mob families, the Italian families over there, man. Yeah. So black people modeled themselves, black street people modeled themselves after Italian mobs, and they don't even do it the same way. It's like our people took feminism that was for the white lady to be counterparts and equal with her husband and you know, in the work field, is the same thing that our black street dudes did with the mob. You know what I'm saying? Went and took their whole ideologies, don't snitch, no ratting, and turned it into our own and completely just destroyed it.
It's now just wrapped up in the firearms charge. Okay, so that brings us to what these new charges mean. And it basically has to do with the government's theory of the case. As I said, up until this point, prosecutors have been saying this is a murder for hire case. But with these new charges, they are now saying that this shooting was a part of something much larger. According to prosecutors, Durk was the head of what they are calling the Banks Gang Enterprise, a criminal organization that has been tied to murders, attempted murders, robberies, drug trafficking, witness intimidation, retaliatory violence, and some other stuff. The government says that Durk does have a music label called OTF, which is used to produce music, sell music, sign artists, etc. But then they claim that there's a subset of OTF where the members do more than just make music. According to the feds, Durk recruited people from the Black Disciples gang to join his OTF gang. And since the group has been created, the feds say they have committed a number of crimes on behalf of and in furtherance of their group, which again, the feds are calling an enterprise. As an example of some of these crimes and the role Durk has played, prosecutors say that on February 2019, Durk, King Von, and another person that they are not naming tried to kill a man after that man sold them a stolen car. According to the document, Durk, Von, and the third person asked the man for a refund, but when the man refused, the group robbed him and then shot him. This incident happened in Atlanta, and the man was wounded, but he survived. And then another incident that the indictment talks about is from January of 2022, and this one happened in Chicago. Prosecutors say that two associates of OTF killed a rival OTF gang member based on the promise that Durk would pay them. Once the killing was done, prosecutors say associate number 1 sent a text to associate number 2 saying, quote, "What's up with OTF? What you mean they not paying?" Associate 2 then responded saying, quote, "We waiting. He," meaning Durk, "comes up here on the 17th. According to the indictment, on February 17, 2022, one of the associates met up with Durk while he was recording a music video. Durk had brought $1 million in cash to the video shoot, and the associate apparently made this Instagram story of him, quote, "displaying his monetary reward from the Banks Gang enterprise while he had one of Durk's songs about stalking and murdering rivals playing in the background." Now, some additional context about this 2022 Chicago.
And this is how they get caught. They'll be like, well, how y'all know that was the money? Like, how you know that was the money? You see, this is where they make a mistake. You see, the feds have technology and software. They can zoom into this money and pick serial numbers off of it and then match the money that Durk withdrew out the bank, and it will match those serial numbers. Oh, you tripping, bro. How they gonna do that? See, now you tripping. You just coming up on here just trying to get YouTube views, just talking anything, saying anything. Well, no, that's what they did to Pooh Shiesty. Remember when Pooh Shiesty had that shooting? Yeah, he dropped money at the scene, so they collected that money. And then remember when Pooh Shiesty made that post on IG with the mini K, the mini Drake with the money spread all over the counter, and he was standing on the counter? Yeah, guess what the feds did? Hit that thing with the super zoom, bird's eye view, super zoom, zoomed in on the money, matched the serial numbers on the money, and said, "We got him. Gotcha." Yeah, matched the serial numbers from the scene to make the case even stronger, bro. Y'all can't play and beat these feds.
Murder is that prosecutors did talk about this murder in indictment number 2. Durk's attorneys argued that it wasn't relevant and shouldn't be allowed into this trial, but before the judge could make a ruling on if it would or would not be allowed, the feds withdrew their request to use it. And now, here we are months later, and the feds are clearly saying they want to use it again. But what's interesting about them wanting to use it now is that the two associates that were charged with the murder have apparently now taken a plea deal in their case. So associate number 1 that's in this picture, his name is Anthony Montgomery Wilson, aka Mike City AJ.
So this is the one right here. If y'all never saw it, I'm talking about this is crazy. He felt something was over there, but he just didn't go with his instinct. Watch how he keep peeping that car over there. You know, it's dark tent. He keep looking. And then when it's too late, he hops out. But he actually gets away a long time. If this little relentless shooter killer right here wasn't relentless because he knew that money was on his head, yeah, he would have had a chance because homeboy stopped. Look at this little rookie goon. Chased him all the way down. And bro got a nice distance on him. Don't worry, they're going to show the wide angle. I mean, has a nice distance on him. But he was not letting up. That's the reason why. So look, Eggleston came around. You can see it say Eggleston. Shooting happened on Eggleston. That's considered a street right there where the little center is. That's the little more huskier one that they alleged Durk, you know what I'm saying, paid. Look, all the way over here. Watch, here it go again, bro. This is insane. This is insane. They can't shoot, though. They miss. He shot that dude quick. Looked over at him. Look. Creeping. You could tell these boys be doing this a lot. Look. Like Call of Duty, bruh. You could tell they do this a lot. Look, you see the bullet. You see it hit the snow way up there. Look up here. Look over here. Watch it hit the snow. You're going to see some smoke kick up. Watch right here. Look, that was crazy. Look, chases him down. Chases him down. They say at one point he fell on a snowbank. And that's when you could tell he fell. Look, you still see him. Watch. At one point he's going to stop. You ain't going to see him run no more. He's right here. Right there. Bang. You don't see it no more. Then over there. And that's it.
And he accepted his plea deal in April of this year. And his plea deal notes that he was there to shoot the victim as, quote, consideration for the promise and agreement to pay a sum of money from individual C. And then the other associate, whose name is Preston Powell, aka Marley, his plea says, quote, specifically at the time of the victim's death, there was a cash bounty for the victim's murder. The defendant, Marley, participated in a conspiracy to murder the victim and collect payment. Y'all following what's going on? And why the prosecutors withdrew this only to now use it again? Another incident the prosecutors reference in this indictment to show the crimes OTF has committed has to do with an alleged attempt to kill Quando Rondo that happened in 2021. They say this was done by Durk, Kavon Grant, the defendant, not defendant, and then another unnamed person. The indictment also talks about other music, social media posts, and an unreleased clip from a music video that Durk did for the song Redman, where prosecutors say the clip shows Durk chasing and shooting someone who looked like Quando Rondo. These are pictures of the video in which the feds say Durk first looks at posts related to Von's death. He then fires multiple shots at a Quando Rondo lookalike while wearing a ski mask. And then the video cuts to showing that Durk is the one underneath the ski mask and he's also the getaway driver. So all of that is to again show that this third indictment is prosecutors saying that this case is much larger than just one shooting incident. They are trying to show that Durk and his organization engaged in a pattern of criminal activity to advance their group. And with this third indictment, they have also now expanded their time frame. So the timeline in indictment 2 started with the death of King Von in November of 2020 and ended when Quando Rondo's cousin died in August of 2022. But now with the expansion of what the prosecutors are claiming, the timeline now ends in August of 2023. So about a year after Quando Rondo's cousin was killed. And some of the things the prosecutors say happened in 2023 includes a text message Durk sent to a group chat where he says, quote, D-Ski, meaning defendant DeAndre Wilson, beat his murder, he gonna be more dangerous. And then another message where Durk stated that a suspected government informant was, quote, ready to snitch blood clear as day and he gonna tell soon. Didi is in the group chat and he responds, quote, he think he can break us down. Someone else in the chat responds, quote, beware of everybody, not just this suspected informant. Durk then responded to that message saying, quote, as long as we don't break, they can tell him whatever. And then in some messages the next day, DeAndre Wilson texts Durk, quote, niggas out there already playing with folks' name. Durk then responds to Didi saying, quote, crazy, blood niggas don't slide or hurt MFers, leaving it all up to us. Okay, so that's the recap on indictment number 3. Just know that prosecutors are saying Durk and his co-defendants committed crimes on behalf of their gang and in furtherance of their gang. It allows prosecutors to get in a lot more information than if they were focusing on a specific incident. You got that? Durk's attorneys have responded to this new indictment. You can pause to read, and I'll be looking out for the next hearing so I can see what's going on.